Hello everyone, praise God and welcome to today's class. This is class 4 of our Canva design class and I'm so excited about today's class and I want to appreciate everyone who submitted the assignments for last week. The YouTube thumbnails, you're beautiful. I'll be responding as soon as most of us submit. So from last week's class, we're supposed to come up with the logo, with your brand colors and the fonts. Okay, and so today I want to just discuss more or share more with us about the design principles, specifically the color and the typography. When you talk about typography, we are talking about the fonts. So the design principles usually guide on how your visual elements are used either to create effective and aesthetically pleasing and communicative design. So with the design principles, they'll guide you on how your visual elements are to be used to create effective, pleasing, and communicative designs. Among these, we have majorly color and typography, which are the two most influential elements as they directly affect people's perception, their emotion, and readability. So color, let us start with color in design. First of all, what is color? When you hear color, what do you understand by color? So I want you to put in the comment section what you understand by color when you hear color. So color is the visual perception resulting from the way light reflects off surfaces. In design, color conveys meaning, evokes emotions, creates hierarchy, and enhances brand identity. Okay, so our color theory basics, we have primary colors where we have red, blue, yellow. Okay, so that one I know most of us know, especially you've gone through high school. So primary colors is red, blue, yellow. These cannot be created by mixing other colors. They are like, I would call them original colors. Okay, then we have secondary colors, which is green, orange, purple, and these are created by mixing two primary colors. For example, if you get red and blue and mix it, what color do you get? Please indicate that in the live chat. When you mix blue and yellow, what color do you get? Or when you mix red and yellow, what color do you get? Indicate those in the live chat. And then the tertiary colors, these are mixtures of primary and secondary colors. For example, red, orange, blue, and green. Okay, so those are tertiary colors. So we have primary colors, secondary colors, and tertiary colors. Those are color theory basics. And then we have the color properties. Under color properties, we have hue, which is the name of a color. For example, red, blue, green. So hue is like a name of a color. Then we have saturation, or what people call chroma. This is the intensity or purity of a color. So if it's high saturation, you'll find maybe it's vivid, vibrant. If it's low saturation, it may be muted or soft. Okay. Then we have value or brightness. This is how light or dark a color appears. So high value is light and low value is dark. Okay, that's why you find when people say light blue, it is of high value. And then dark blue, that is low value, the brightness. Okay, so in the color harmony, creating a pleasing arrangement of colors in a design, some of the common color harmonies is number one, we have complementary colors. I'm sure this one we have had it a lot. So complementary colors, these are colors which are opposite each other. For example, blue and orange, and high contrast, and they draw attention. So those are complementary colors. So I want you to note down what are other complementary colors. Yes, then number two is the analogous colors, which are next to each other on the color wheel. For example, you have blue, green, so these are harmonious and calm. Now, I said analogous colors, these are colors which are next to each other on the color wheel. Then we have the triadic. Triadic, these are three colors evenly spaced, balanced, and vibrant. For example, red, yellow, and blue. These are triadic. Then monochromatic, these are variations of a single color, simple, cohesive, and elegant. Okay. Then we have the psychology or psychological impact of colors. When you see colors, what emotions do they influence or perceptions? For example, red. Red has communicates energy, urgency, passion. Okay, that's why even you see on Valentine, they use red. So we have blue. Blue communicates trust, calm, spirituality. That's why you notice that most churches use blue. Okay, then we have green. Green communicates growth, nature, renewal, And then yellow, optimism, warmth, attention, others say brightness, okay? And then purple communicates royalty, creativity, and spirituality. When you notice most ministries, most churches actually do use a lot of blue, a lot of purple, because these colors communicate spirituality. And then orange, enthusiasm, vibrancy, black, power, sophistication, then white, purity, simplicity, clarity. Okay? So these are things for you to take note of. And then their application in ministry, you find that blue and white, they stand more for calm, trust, and spirituality. And then when you look at red and gold, they stand more for celebration or emphasis. Then green for growth, renewal, and discipleship. So those are just some of the psychological impact of color, like what emotions and perceptions these colors give. So in our color visual hierarchy and branding, it's important that you use color to guide attention and emphasize key elements. Maintain consistency with brand colors across all your visuals. It's important for you to be consistent. Then ensure sufficient contrast between your background and text for readability. So don't use a yellow background and the words are yellow, or a yellow background and then you're using the text, the words are white. So there should be a balance between the color that you're using on your text and the color on the background. It should be readable. When people see, they can easily read. It's appealing to the eye. So you need to know how to blend colors. How, when you use this color, if I'm using this color background, you should be able to do that. Because your eyes can see. So use your eyes, okay? So, some of the practical tips that I want us to do for using color. Number one, you should limit the color palette to 3 to 5 colors for clarity and cohesion. Don't use so many colors. Actually, I would just say use 3 colors for clarity and cohesion. Then use contrast to highlight important information. Okay? Then be culturally aware. Colors may have different meanings in different cultures. Now, there's some things I may mention. If you don't understand them, that means you need to do research. For example, when we talk about contrast, what do you understand by contrast? Okay? If you're yet to understand it, something, because I'm not going to discuss everything in detail, but you should be able to do your research and study on those things because you'll encounter them in many spaces. So number 3, be culturally aware. Colors may have different meanings in different cultures. So in some cultures, colors may mean, this means blue means something in some cultures. So what do colors mean in your culture? Okay, I know we are from Zion. So in Zion, what do colors stand for? So test the colors on various screens to ensure visibility and consistency. Sometimes you may design and then on your mobile, it's looking a certain way. On your PC, it's looking a certain way. And then when you put it on screen, so it's important that you do those tests to be sure, how does this look like? Don't just design and send. At least have a check, like look through them. So when it comes to typography in design, first of all, typography is the art and technique of arranging type to make written language readable, legible, and visually appealing. Typography is the art and technique of arranging type. When you talk about type, I mean like text, to make written language readable, legible, and visually appealing. Have you noticed that there are fonts that some people are attracted to? Personally, I don't like Times New Roman. But Times New Roman is like the standard font that is usually used in schools, institutions. You're submitting assignments, they're telling you to use Times New Roman. But to me, I'm not a fan of Times New Roman. So what is your font, by the way? So indicate also in the chat, what font is eye-catching to you? I used to love Montserrat. I used to really love Montserrat, and it was one of the fonts that I would always use. If I'm designing something, I'd use Montserrat. I also never liked Arial. I'm still yet to adjust to liking Arial. Calibri, maybe a bit, but I am in love with Poppins. Like, I just love Poppins. That's why you see right here, I'm using Poppins. Okay, so still under typography, this involves font selection. It involves the size, the spacing, and alignment to communicate effectively. So you find that your fonts, is it size 30, size 14, what size? Just like back in high school when you would type, or one of the standard sizes was size 12. That's what would be told. Use Times New Roman, size 12. So, you have to have these things in mind. So what are some of the key elements of typography? Now, number one is the font itself. The typeface. When I talk about font, I mean the type, that font. What I've been talking about, the Times New Roman, the Arial, Roboto, Montserrat. So you need to know those fonts. Fair, Sans, Lato, all those are names of different fonts. So the design of your letters, that is very key. In typography, the font is very key. And then the weight, the thickness. I'm sure you've seen fonts which have light, bold, regular, normal, So that is the weight when we talk about the font weight, the thickness of the characters, okay? And then we have style. Style can be in italic, underline, or small caps, okay? So it's also important for you to take note of that. And then we have size. Size can be the height of the text, which influences readability and emphasis. For example, I told you it can be either size 12 or 15 or 20. So that's the size. Then number 5 is the line spacing, or what we call the leading. Yeah, the spacing between your text. There is the vertical space between lines of text, but then there's also the horizontal space. So if you're writing many words, it's that space between maybe the first line and the lower line. Okay, so those are the lines, the line spacing. Then there is the letter spacing. Here you're looking at the space between the letters. Are they squeezed? Are they well spaced? So there is that. Now the letter spacing is called tracking, and then the line spacing is called leading. Then we have kerning. In kerning, this is more about the adjustment of spacing between specific character pairs. Okay, and then alignment is more of positioning of your text, whether it's on the left aligned, right aligned, center aligned, or it's justified. This as well, I'm sure those who did Microsoft Word, you could have encountered this in high school. So these are not things that are new to us. These are things that we are familiar with, or if they are new to you, thank God new knowledge has come to you today. So we have types of fonts. Some types of fonts, because some people may say, you want us to come up with a font. One of the reasons why I thought of taking us through colors and fonts is to help us, because some people were not able to do the assignment of last week because they were yet to know even what are fonts. How do I choose a font? How do I choose a color and all that? So some types of fonts, we have serif fonts, letters with small strokes at the end. For example, Times New Roman. So those are serif fonts. So you can check out and see the different fonts. What are those fonts which have like small strokes at the ends? Then these are good for formal, traditional, trustworthy. You know, this is what they communicate, because every font has a message it communicates or what it stands for. Just like we said, colors have the emotion, the perception they give. The same with fonts. So the serif fonts are formal, traditional, trustworthy. They are good for print, books, and formal documents. Then we have the sans serif fonts. The sans serif fonts, these are clean letters without strokes. Remember, serif fonts have strokes. Sans serif fonts, they don't have strokes. They're just clean letters. For example, Arial, Helvetica, all these are examples of sans serif fonts. And these, what they communicate are sans serif fonts are modern, simple, readable, great for digital screens and social media graphics. So if you're working on content online, then take advantage of the sans serif fonts. Okay, then we have the script fonts. They resemble more of handwriting or calligraphy. They are elegant, creative, decorative. They use sparingly. They use sparingly for emphasis, titles, or invitations. For example, when you look at the wedding cards or the inviting you for a function, those are script fonts. Then we have display or decorative fonts. These are unique artistic styles. They are eye-catching for branding or titles, and they avoid for body text to maintain readability. So you have to avoid using these for the body text, yeah, because you do need your body to be readable when people are looking at the fonts. So what is a typography hierarchy? The typography hierarchy guides the reader's eye and emphasizes key points. For example, the headline, which is largest or boldest font for the main idea. And then we have the sub-headline, which is slightly smaller, supports the headline. So we have the headline is big, then the sub-headline comes next below it, then the body text. I'm sure when you're using Microsoft Word or Google Docs, where you find those titles, headline 1, H1, H2, you see. So we have the body text. This one is standard font for readable content. And then the captions or footnotes that like use the smallest font or majorly less emphasis. So the headline uses the largest and the boldest font for the main idea. Like this is the catchy thing. And then the sub-headline will be slightly smaller, but then supports the headline. And then the body text is just a standard font, which is readable. Okay. And then the captions, smallest font, less emphasis. So the typography principles, number one, it should be readable, readability. The text should be easy to read at a glance. When someone looks at your text, they should be able to read at a glance. Number two, consistency. Use consistent fonts and sizes throughout a project. Number three is the contrast. Differentiate headings and body text with size, weight, or color. Okay? I know I mentioned contrast earlier. So contrast will help differentiate the headings and body text with size, weight, or color. Then alignment, keep text visually aligned for clean layouts. And then the white space, avoid clutter. Give text room to breathe. Don't compile things, let there be some breathing, okay? So some of the practical tips for you to take note of: limit your fonts to 2 or 3 types per design for cohesion. So if you're designing anything, let your fonts use at least 2 fonts. Maximum, if you really must, then 3. But if possible, maintain 2. Then use bold or color to highlight important words or phrases. If the word is important, put it in bold or change the color. Then number 3, maintain sufficient contrast between your text and the background. Let there be, a contrast between them. Number 4, avoid decorative fonts for body text. you're writing a body and you're putting the words in, they are all in decorative. People can hardly read you. You're just looking at the style. You like the way the decoration is, but we are not getting the message. So avoid such fonts for body especially. And then test readability across devices and sizes. So once you've done your design, check if they are readable. Check if your design can be readable, consumed on different gadgets. Okay. So how then can we combine color and typography? Combining color and typography should ensure that your text color contrasts with the background for legibility. Then use color to create emphasis in headings or important phrases. Match your font style with the tone of the design. Is it formal or serious content? So if it's formal or serious, use the serif and neutral color. If it is youth or creative content, use the sans serif and vibrant color. Then maintain balance. Too many colors or fonts can overwhelm the viewer. Maintain balance. So you should be able to balance the font and the colors. Okay, your typography and the colors, you should be able to balance them. So how then can this be applied in ministry? As you're doing what you're doing in churches. Some of the examples you find now, like if you have someone's slides, or maybe there's a presentation, or the man and the woman of God have given you their sermons that have been put into templates or in PowerPoint. So you find that you have someone's slides and you can use readable sans serif fonts and high contrast colors. And then social media posts, which most of us are focusing on. You find that they have to be bright, eye-catching. They have to be eye-catching colors, bold headings, Then we have children or youth content. These ones now use playful colors, fun, readable fonts. Yeah. And then we have branding and logos. Use consistent color palette, complementary font choices. So it's important that you take note of that. So in summary, color communicates emotion, hierarchy, and brand identity. And then typography ensures readability, guides attention, and supports tone. And for effective design balances both to create visually engaging and meaningful communication. So for you to have an effective design, it's important that you balance that too. So I hope that we are all clear up to there. You've understood what you needed to know about typography, about color, and you are ready now to work on your colors and to work on your typography. So in case you do have any challenges or any questions, please feel free to share. So I expect you to go back and revise your colors, revise your fonts, and double check and see what have I not done well, or what do I need to do, because I know most of us have not yet worked on the aspect of the color and the font. So I want your major assignment this week is majorly going to be on the color and the font. So make sure that all the designs that you're doing from the other Canva videos that you were to watch and do the quotes, you need to put them in, take advantage of your font and the colors that you've decided to do. Let them be there, the fonts and the colors. So I need you to communicate what are your two fonts, maximum two fonts that you're going to be using, which will be your brand fonts. And then what are your colors, 2 to 3, maximum 3 colors. Okay. So I would love to hear that from you. Kindly share that on the WhatsApp group and also in the Google Classroom. Otherwise, thank you so much for being a part of today's class. Until next week, have a blessed week.